Hi, my name is Tracy Gossage, and this is my Code of Conduct Analysis for EDA 410 Classroom Management. The school district that I chose was the Casey County School District in Liberty, Kentucky, and the school year is the current 2018-19 school year handbook that I analyzed. The first question was, what are the four major items or topics covered in this document that you deal or will deal with on a daily or weekly basis? There were several things in there that I felt like were important. Obviously, they wouldn't be in there if they weren't important. But the four that I feel like on a daily basis or weekly basis that I will deal with will be attendance or tardies, student responsibilities in general, cell phone use, and then the harassment, discrimination, and or bullying. They were two separate categories, but I kind of grouped them together because I feel like they kind of go together. So those were the four things that I felt like were the most important topics covered. Do you feel that the items listed are easy or challenging to address in your classroom? I feel like student responsibilities are something that is going to be very easy to address. I think that expressing those up front, setting the expectations for those responsibilities are something that's going to be very important to my classroom. I think that doing that up front kind of just lets students know what is expected of them. I think oftentimes in classrooms that I have seen or observed in the past, that's not necessarily something that's gone over kind of bullet point by bullet point. There's not that many of them. There's maybe like 10 or 12. And I think they're probably worth going over individually just so students can hear them. In my classroom, I think I could probably even make some student responsibility posters to hang up so that there were visual reminders throughout the day and weeks and year that students would know and remember what those responsibilities are. Those were items that were totally the responsibility of the student. So there wasn't anybody else that they could blame but themselves for not adhering to those responsibilities. And I think that that's important that students take ownership of those. So I feel like that's something very easy that I could address in my classroom. Cell phone use, I think that that's something very easily taken care of in my classroom. The policy states that cell phones are allowed in the school. Students may have them on their person, but they are not allowed to have them out during school hours. So if they have them, they have to be up in a backpack or in their pocket. They're not to be out at any point during the day on or being used. So I think that's very easy to take care of. The first offense is that the phone is taken to the office and the student may pick it up at the end of the day. The second offense was that it was taken and parents had to come pick it up. And the third, it was taken and it may or may not be returned until the end of the year. So I think that that's something that's very easily managed in your classroom. Before you send it to the office. I mean, I guess if your classroom rule was that if you saw it, you took it, you could take it, and then if it was seen again, you could take it to the office. But I think that just setting that expectation again up front, letting students know that it will not be tolerated, and if it is, then it's gone, is just something that's easily taken care of. I mean, it's kind of plain. You do it, it's gone. If you have it, keep it up. So I think that's pretty easily taken care of and addressed in the classroom. The harassment, discrimination, and bullying, I think that the handbook did a good job of defining each of those things. It also did a good job of explaining what is not tolerated and what will be disciplined immediately. I think that's probably the biggest thing is, if it's done, if bullying is done, if discrimination is taking place, if harassment is taking place, I think that those are things that you cannot do a lot of leeway on. I feel like that, they're listed there for a reason. They're for the safety of the student, teachers, the school. So I think they have to be taken seriously, and there just has to be those types of things aren't tolerated. And I think that's something that has to be done up front. And I think that when things happen, that the consequences need to be followed through as outlined in the handbook. And I think that you can do that in your classroom. I think you can talk about those things and what those things look like, because some people may not, especially younger elementary students, may not understand what discrimination is, what bullying looks like, what harassment looks like. And I think that if you outline those things and you give full explanations of what those things are and what they look like and why they are important to not do, I think that it can be addressed and taken care of very easily in your classroom. Attendance and tardies, I think, are the thing that I will find most challenging in my classroom, simply because I can stress to my students all day long about how important it is to come to school and how important it is to be there so they don't miss things and so that I can do my job to make them successful, and they can understand that and they can want that. But there's a parent on the other side of that who is controlling whether or not they get up, whether or not they get on the bus, if they miss the bus, whether or not they have gas to get to school. And there's just a lot of things that go into attendance and tardies. And I think that will be challenging for me because I'm going to need to remember that my students don't always have control of that. And in most cases, they don't have any control over that. So I need to praise them when they are there. I need to praise them when they are on time. Um, I need to make it important to them. And maybe they will express how important they feel it is to their parents. But in all situations, I need to remember, not to blame the child or the student for that. There's nothing sometimes that they can do about that. And to even um, address it as if it's something they can control is just not right. That's something I kind of feel very passionate about, because those students that aren't there are usually the students that just have um, situations that aren't really good. So that's just kind of something I feel pretty strong about. Um, that kind of takes it back to the last question on why is the code of conduct important to students and parents. Um, Parents, I feel like the code of conduct is important because it lays out kind of the expectations of what is expected of the students, but also what's expected of them. The kids are coming to school and the students are there to learn and they're the ones that are benefiting, but the parents have responsibilities also, and that's where those communication lines come into play. I think that's why it's important for teachers to express to parents things that are listed in the code of conduct, even at open houses or orientations. It's important to go over those parent responsibilities. There's a whole list of them. And they need to understand that you're going to be in communication with them about the things that are on that list that they are responsible for. And I think if you set some of those expectations up front, that they will respect you for that. I think in most cases they will be grateful that you care so much. There's always going to be those one or two parents who don't, and that's okay. But that doesn't stop you from trying and initiating, and I think that's what's important. As far as the students go, the code of conduct is important because they need to understand what they're at school to do, um, and all of those expectations that go along with that, and what's expected of them and why. And I think when it's all laid out in front of them like that, there's no questions. And if there is a question, they can always come to you and ask. But I think just going over the stuff in the code of conduct, and letting them know up front what the consequences are and what the expectations are, make for just a better classroom management and better overall school experience for them in general. Thanks.